How's it going, Exile? So here I have 8 tips for you which you can start using once you reach level 25 or once you are like in the cruel campaign or whatever. Some of them involve trading, some don't, some need like a couple of exalts, some don't. Overall, this is something to basically get you started in your early endgame phase or like your late mid-game, whatever you want to call it. So this is definitely nothing if you're like a huge blaster, but maybe even then you're gonna learn something. So let's get right into it. How's it going, Exile? So this might be pretty obvious to you, but it wasn't obvious to me at all until like a viewer of my stream noticed me about this. So you might have noticed that if you search for something which used not to be very expensive, right now everything seems to be costing 1 divine. So for example, I want to have an armor with 700 energy shield. I used to get them for a couple of exalts. Well, now if you trade search them, you basically just see them for 1 divine. So why is that? You don't have to buy these for 1 divine actually, because this is just because the PoE trade website has a weird ratio from divines to exalts. It's roughly like 5 exalts a divine or something like that, while the real ratio is like 60 exalts for a divine. So if you want to see stuff which you can actually afford, you just want to go to trade filters and you put in buyout price exalted 1 to 1000. And then you go for search, and now you all of a sudden see like all these armor pieces for just 10 exalted, right? It's still chest armors with like 700 energy shield, and they're all like 10 to 15 exalts. And there's lots of examples to this. I did this for like ring searches and everything, and pretty much everything which costs exalted right now is hidden behind the divine. So as soon as you put this off, basically you will never find anything for an exalt at all. So look, this is divine. I can scroll down like all the way. It's all 1 divine. You will not see a single item for exalts here. And that is why, because the ratio is like really strange right now, you will never see anything for exalts unless you set this trade filter. So again, this might be obvious to you, but maybe it helps you to find the cheap stuff again, because it's actually not gone. You can still buy decent stuff for like, you know, 1 to 20, 30, whatever divines you want to, whatever amount of exalts you want to pay, you can buy everything still. Just put your trade filter here for exalts. And it's a really annoying if you want to buy something in the range of 1 divine, because now you basically have to do double searches. So let's say we're looking for 800, right? So something which actually costs 1 divine. So if I do my 800 search, I get something here in the range of 100 exalts, right? And now I can disable my exalt query, and now we'll get stuff for like 2 divines. So whenever you search something expensive now, actually you have to do both searches. You have to do the divine search and the exalted orb search. So that's just like a little side note. So if you're wondering why you can't freaking find anything for exalted orbs, just divines, this little trick might help you. So I hope you find this video useful, and you know, I see you guys on stream, and take care. Alright, use your worthless uniques. All uniques you find are pretty much going to be worthless, especially if you're in the early game. It's very unlikely that you find anything of value. But did you know you can actually exchange your uniques for chances? So what you can do is you can just take all these uniques you don't need, right? They are all worthless. The chances you're getting a unique which is actually worth something is very low. So what you can do is you can take all these uniques and then you just disenchant them, right? So you go to disenchant. And as you can see, you get a chance chart for everyone, right? So let's just disenchant all our unique. So this is like a bunch of them. So, and we have way more of them, which are all worthless, right? So look at all these chest pieces here. They are all pretty much useless. Same for helmets. So you're not going to find anything useful here. So even though there are some uniques which are worth something, you know, if you're just like in the beginning of the campaign, it's very unlikely that you find like a unique which is actually worth something, right? So, and you can always double check the uniques if you want, but trust me, these are most likely not going to be worth anything. So let's just keep disenchanting these. And obviously you're probably not going to have this many, but for me it's also convenient because, you know, if I stash all my stuff, the uniques go back into my unique tab, because you cannot have duplicated uniques in your unique tab. So as soon as you like basically pulled out all of your uniques here, then you just disenchant everything, and now you can see I actually have like, oops, and everything. So you can see I actually have like 4 chances now. So then you just go to the currency exchange, and you might be surprised about the ratio here. So you basically want Exalted Orb and you want to give away chances right? So I have 5 chances now, and as you can see, 1 chance is actually worth 2.5 exalts right now. So that's actually not bad, right? So for the 5 here, I can actually get like 12 exalts. You can pull them out right away, so that is a good amount of exalts you can use there to boost your early game experience and just buy some useful stuff for all this crappy uniques you just disenchanted. Alright, this one is pretty simple. Update your gems. Updating gems is very powerful. And it happens that through processing maps and the campaign, you most of the time are at least 2 or 3 gem levels below your maximum. For me, for example, when I started mapping, I could like upgrade like 3 gem levels, which straight up doubled my damage. So what you want to do is, you want to look at your gems and what level you have. So for a level 10 gem, you need level 36. For a level 11, you need 41, 12, 46, and so on. I have the list on the screen right now, and it's also in the description down below. So what happens if you upgrade your gems frequently? Well, it's simple. You're just going to deal significantly amount of extra damage, and getting these gems is very easy. So if you're coming out of the campaign and starting mapping, and you have like low-level gems, which are like 3 level below the maximum you could have, just go on the trade website and search for item, uncut skill gem, and then you just put the level. So say, for example, let's say you are coming out of the campaign and you are level, let's make it 52, right? So you're at level 13 and your next level would be 58 at 14. So let's say you are hitting level 58. You just put item level 14 uncut skill gem. You search for them. And as you can see, these are basically cheap. I don't know if you will get them for transmutations, but you know, usually I would go for like something more expensive, like in, you know, in the higher range. At the beginning, these were 1 exalt each, like this one's here. But usually the higher gems cost 1 exalt each, and usually I just ask the buyer, hey, do you have more for all the skills I want to upgrade? So let's see how much of an impact this actually is. So I have a level 10 spark right now. So if I put my level 11, as you can see, this is my level 10 spark. It goes from 63 to 73. So that's about like 15 or 16% of a damage increase, right? Let's upgrade it and let's go to 12. So this goes from 73 to 84 and increase projectile speed. So this is like another, you know, 12, 15% or whatever. And if you go like towards the very end, just compare like a level 12 to a level 19 gem. So the level 19 gem does like 3 times more damage than the level 12 gem. So it's a very good way to just keep upgrading your gems. And I promise you, you're going to do significant amounts of extra damage just by going PoE trade and buy the highest gems you can use. And remember to check the list on the level requirement on the gems. It's on your screen right now, and it's also in the description of this video. So gem quality. Upgrading gem quality is crucial, and you might be not doing it because you might be thinking that you need 20 GCPs to upgrade it. But that's actually not true. 1 GCP actually gives 5%. So you only need 4 GCP, which is right now somewhere around 6 Exalted Orbs to fully upgrade a gem. And it actually matters quite a lot. Let's look at our Spark here, for example. So our Spark here has 16 projectiles, and from full quality, it gets 4 extra projectiles. So that's like somewhere around a 20% increase, maybe even a little bit more. I'm not very good at math, but let's just say it's a 20% increase for the cost of 6 Exalted Orbs. So just as you can see, put the GCP on here, and it each gives 5%. And now all of a sudden it fires 20 projectiles. Other gems are even more significant. For example, if you look at Archmage. So Archmage starts at 4% damage as extra lightning damage, and with the gems it gets another 2%. So that's a 33% increase just from adding like quality on the Archmage. So other ones might not be so significant, like for example Blink just gives you a little bit more cooldown, but usually your main attack spells are worth upgrading to 20%. Right, using the corruption trick to get yourself 4 linked sockets. So I want to upgrade my Orb of Storms, but I don't want to spend 25 exalts to do this. So you might have already seen this trick. Usually it gets you there in like 1/3 of the effort, roughly. So what you're going to do is you want to remove the gem from your skill tab. And then you're just going to take any level gem, right? It doesn't matter. I'm taking a level 15. And you just make a bunch of Orb of Storms now, right? So these gems are not worth a lot. So I'm just going to make like a bunch of Orb of Storms now. So we can just go with the process. So first of all, this roughly takes, I would say, around like 10 attempts, 10 to 15 attempts basically to get done. I would say an average. Sometimes you have more luck, sometimes less, right? You can hit it on the first one, maybe you don't. So what you're going to do is now, first of all, you're going to give it 3 socket with a lesser Jewel's Orb, and then you're going to corrupt it. And then it can jump to 4 sockets, right? So do it again. We're just going to basically do this until we get one with 4 sockets. So the chances here are relatively high to get one. Let's see. Not my lucky day today, I guess. There you go. So this was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this was actually the 9th attempt. So if you calculate how much that is, right now, 1 Varlorb is like 1/3 of an Exalt. So 3 Varlorbs is 1 Exalt, and 7 Jeweler's Orb is like 1 Exalt. So this was basically 1.2 Exalts for the Jeweler's Orb and like 3 or 4 for the Exalts. Those like roughly 4 or 5 Exalts to get this gem linked. And I highly recommend, if you have some extra Exalts, doing this on your main attack gems, like your Spark or whatever like main skill you're using. This usually makes a lot of sense to use this trick. It only works if you don't want to quality it though. So if you want to have a Spark, for example, which hugely benefits from quality, you can do this. But if you don't really care about the quality, and you really just want to get like a good like amount of supports on the gem, then you can definitely use this trick to save yourself some Exalted Orbs. So then I have my level 14 Corrupted Orb of Storms here, right? So what I can do is now I can upgrade it to any level. So let's say it's level 14 right now, and I want to upgrade it to level 15 with a 15 gem. I'm just going to click on the Orb of Storms, and I'm just going to upgrade it and call it day. Now it's level 15, and you can do this all day long. Use your weapon swap. So in my case, it's very useful because I play a caster, so I can actually empower my weapon swap, and I can use it to empower my curse, and also I can use it to cast Sigil of Power. So if you see, my weapon swap has chiming stuff here, which gives me Sigil of Power. So Sigil of Power is a ridiculously strong spell. You just stand in it, for example, and it gains stages, as you can see. As soon as you have 4 stages, it essentially gives you like 60% more damage or something like that. And the cost is really 0, just having like a weapon swap here. So how do you use weapon swap? First of all, very important is to put your skills on the correct weapon slot. So how do you do that? First of all, you want to make sure your weapon swap, you will see this is automatically going to be weapon set 2. You cannot even select it. But all your other ones are going to have a weapon set assigned. So if you don't unassign weapon set 2 from all your other spells, it's not going to switch back after casting Sigil of Power. So you want to make sure all your spells you're using have the weapon set 1 here, right? So this one is wrong already because I was, playing around with my skills. Some have been reset. So whenever you play around with your skills, make sure everything you want on your want and focus or your weapon set 1 setup is on weapon set 1. So that is the first thing you can do. You can just put like a very strong spell, in my case, the Sigil of Power, on your weapon swap, and it will automatically cast. So as you can see right now, if I cast my Sigil of Power here, you can see now I have the stuff in my hand, right? And as soon as I cast like a Spark, it's automatically going to switch back to Wand and Focus. So second thing you can use is your actual skill points, and that is a little bit tricky, because if you go to the respec vendor and you just respec like all your skill points and you put like all your weapon sets, it's not going to work. So it's only going to work one way, right? So you have to have 22 skill points. This is your default if you have 22 points per weapon set. So you have to have this all unequipped, right? So you have to have unspec 22 skill points. So now you can actually start speccing into your weapon sets, right? So weapon set 1, which is your primary weapon set. Now you put all the spells in which you want to cast on weapon set 1. So usually these are offensive stats. You don't want to really remove mana regeneration or other stuff in this, because this is going to greatly reduce your mana regeneration or your survivability or whatever on weapon swap. So really just make sure there's just offensive stuff in here, right? So we're going to put all of our offensive stuff back in. And as soon as we have picked all our 22 skill points here, see, I have this, and this, right? So now it says 0, right? Now let's apply points. And as you can see, this is now red. So this is my primary weapon set. And now let's go with the secondary. So with the secondary, what I'm doing is I'm using a curse. Because curses are very strong to reduce enemy resistances. And what we can do now is we can get all the freaking good curse nodes here in our skill tree, because this is just going to be our weapon swap. So all what we're going to do is we're going to assign our curse, our conductivity in this case, to the weapon swap, and then we're going to have curses. So let's just, you know, choose all the good stuff for curses here, right? So there's like all increased curse duration or whatever, and this one here is for, you know, I don't even want to know what it is. These are all pretty good, so they're gonna boost our curses in a very strong way. And so now I actually have 3 skill points left. I cannot get here, so I can basically assign something completely random now if I want. So since I don't have anything good related to curses anymore, I might just get cast speed. Because cast speed just helps me to, you know, cast my weapon swap a little bit faster and swap back. So I'm just gonna choose like these 3 cast speed nodes here to the very end. So now I have like 22 points and I can now apply. And as you can see now, if I put my curse right now, I'm on weapon set 1, right? So you see I have wanted focus. So let's curse now. See, like this is... Well, it's already set up, so let's just change this. So by default, you would have your conductivity still on weapon set 1, right? So let's put it back on weapon set 1 here. So my curse is on weapon set 1 now. And let's see, we go for conductivity. As you can see, like we have like a relatively small circle here. And now as soon as we assign this to our weapon set 2, let's see. Conductivity, where is it? Here. So we assign this to weapon set 2 now. And now you will be able to see this is now actually huge, right? So now I'm on the stuff, and if I go back to my skill tree, you can already see it's like selecting all these curse nodes here for us. So we have like, oh, I actually forgot this one. So we have all these curse nodes here applied now to our curse, and it's just going to be on weapon swap. As soon as we're done cursing, it's going to swap back to our default weapon, and it's going to do all our DPS again. So this is a very, very strong way to boost your damage and to basically take advantage of your second skill slot there. Mana recovery node. So whatever class you're playing, if you rely on mana and mana regeneration, you will see all these nodes which do like increased mana regeneration rate here, right? So this basically is additive. So you can have a bunch of increased mana regeneration rate and it all stacks additively. But there's one node in the entire cluster which is multiplicative, and that's this Arcane Blossom node. So it has increased mana recovery rate. This basically means it's a multiplicative increase to all your mana recovery. So mana recovery from flasks, from regeneration, from mana recovery on kill. Basically everything which recovers mana gets multiplied with 15% if you choose this node. So if you're not a sorceress, you can anoint this node. So if you don't know how to anoint, I will do it a little bit later in this video, but you basically need Envy, Despair, Despair, and you can anoint this node for like an increased 15% increased mana recovery rate, no matter where you are on the tree, and this is fairly inexpensive. There's very expensive anoint, but this one is fairly inexpensive. Alright, use your anoint. So if you don't know what anointing is, as you can see in my skill tree here, I have a piercing shot node. I'm nowhere near this node. So what you can do is you can basically enchant one of these nodes on your amulet, and that's called an anoint. So how do you do that? So if you go over the node and press the Alt key for inspect, you can see unallocated, distilled emotions, disgust, guilt, disgust. So what does that mean? So if you go to your delirium here, I have the delirium tab, but you can just buy these. So we have stuff here, right? So we have envy, we have guilt, and whatever. So let's just choose like one node, for example, which is relatively cheap and everybody can get, which is the Ether Flow node here, or Ether Flow. So this is a very useful node because most of the time all characters will be moving, and this actually gives you, for example, 50% increased mana regeneration. So to do this, you basically just need Envy, Greed, Envy, and this is probably just worth like 4 or 5 Exalted Orbs right now. And if you want to do this, you basically say Envy, Greed, Envy, right? So I pick my Envy and my Greed here, and I just right-click this, and then I put Envy, Greed, Envy. And then, you know, if I put my amulet in here, you can see Etherflow, right? So if I would enchant this now, it would put the Everflow on it, so I would have 25% more, 50% more mana regeneration while moving, which is a very useful Anoint. And this can be very, very useful early game if you're struggling with mana and you're nowhere near that node, for example. You can just get yourself a nice juicy 50% extra mana regeneration for just a few Exalted Orbs. Obviously, there's way, way more expensive Anoints. And for a good example would be, for example, this node here, which gives you 15% more lightning damage. It needs 2 times isolation, and isolation is the most expensive one. So just if you want to have a comparison here, if you go for isolation here and you want to buy that, right? So isolation, that thing is like 381 Exalted Orbs. So if you would want to anoint that node, it would cost you like 800 Exalted Orbs. So really, isolation is incredibly expensive, but there's definitely cheap stuff you can anoint. Usually, you should avoid fear, suffering, and isolation. Isolation, 381, so fear is right now 44. It's okay, but, you know, still expensive. And suffering is roughly 128. So basically, fear, suffering, and isolation are the expensive ones, and the other ones are fairly inexpensive, even though some of those are already like 20 to 30 exalts. But if you want to get yourself a cheap anoint, I recommend you can always get Etherflow, which is relatively inexpensive. Arcane Blossom, which is a 50% multiplicative mana regeneration, is relatively inexpensive. And the piercing shot here, which makes everything basically pierce with a 50% chance, is also relatively inexpensive to get.